Hello, my fellow readers. This is Dark Symphony 777 with a video I thought I would never be able to do. With all the setbacks, with all the problems I've been having with the script, with all the constantly my work schedule a lot, and all the stuff. We're getting the equipment for this, having to read everything, and having to do a lot of work. I never thought I would be able to do this video. It is episode 1 of my fanfiction Introspections, a deep dive into the inner and outer workings of some of the most well-known fanfictions, on what impact they made on not only the fanfiction world, but probably the greater sense of disparity themselves, and probably even some connections to me personally. This episode is going to be a story that created a literal renaissance. Now, for those of you who don't know, Renaissance is a period where there is great thinking and honestly enlightenment in a longer period. It's called the Renaissance for a reason. Go back to Venice and Leonardo da Vinci, the Mona Lisa, all the time where in Italy where all these famous philosophers, scientists, everything was pushed at once. It was called the Renaissance. And there are many different kinds of renaissances from all walks of life and all sorts of mediums. But this one is more a microism than anything else. Because while it didn't affect the greater impact of everything outside of fanfiction, in its little niche, it is responsible for its own mini renaissance. And that is called The Mole, Traitor Abroad. Written by Chris Etchers, otherwise known as Christian Kafau. You can find him on his YouTube page, Kafu and Yoshi. So, some advertisement there for him. This is a interesting case because these types of stories, they up until Chris wrote Traitor Abroad, these stories were never popular, mainly due to several factors. I'll get into it in a little bit, but I thought we go back and explain what type of these stories are there, and how did we get to this point before me doing this video. So the best place to start would actually not be today, nor will the time be for when Traitor Abroad was first written, which was in 2008. But no, we have to go all the way back to the 1950s, with the release of the very first game show, Beat the Clock. Now, Beat the Clock was created on March 3rd. It was made by Mark Branson Bell Productions, and the whole premise of it was simple. People go up, they have to beat a clock and answer a lot of questions to earn some money. Simple. No promise. But at the time, it was extraordinary. It was unheard of. A show where people go to complete challenges to earn money? Who'd have thunk? And Beat the Clock got huge ratings, and so created the whole game show formula. And so that continued for many years. Granted, game shows got their fair share of controversies, the dating game killer, the controversy involving most game shows, where it was revealed that the directors and the producers of various game shows were heavily giving answers to the contestants so that way they can skew results and stuff like that. That was a very well-known controversy at the time. According to my grandfather, he actually saw it happen. Despite him being a truck driver, but he did say that it happened, so I believe him. And then we move up to the 1990s. Game shows weren't really that popular unless the game show was named The Price is Right. That was really at the time, the only game show that was still bringing in a lot of viewers, and in essence, a lot of money, because a lot of people really liked Bob Barker. And I think Price and Right was the only... I don't know when Price and Right was first made, but I think it might have avoided the whole game show scandal, because Bob Barker was known as like a very squeaky clean guy and wouldn't really stoop to that sort of thing. That's just what I think happened. I don't know what exactly happened, but it just did. But in 1998, a show that revolutionized everything was created called Expedition Crusoe, based off the book Robinson Crusoe. It was created in 1997, September 13th. It was made by Charlie Persson in the country Sweden. So, what is that show about? Well, the show basically did a lot of things. It basically turned the whole game show formula on its head to what we now know as competition reality shows. So basically, the whole point of Expedition Crusoe was you basically took a bunch of people, shoved them off on an island. They basically competed a lot of challenges. One person got sent to another island to basically, as in locked up. And at the end of each episode, various competitors would vote on who they want to be eliminated. Now, I bet you're wondering, why does that sound familiar? Because it is. Because America saw how much Expedition Crusoe was making in its home country of Sweden. I think at the time, if I remember right, when the show first came out, Expedition Crusoe was actually the most popular show on Swedish TV. I don't know the exact numbers, so I'm guessing I could be wrong. And so America decided to, hey, we're going to take that idea and do our own thing with it. And so they created Survivor. Yes, Survivor, probably the most iconic reality competition show of all time, was a knockoff. Nice. But various other shows over the years have tried to replicate Expedition Crusoe's success with various things. When people think of the most iconic reality shows, they usually think of Survivor first. I mean, mainly because I think Expedition Crusoe mainly stayed in Sweden when it first came out, and then it's more of a European thing, while Survivor was more worldwide. A lot of people think of The Amazing Race, they think of Hell's Kitchen, and then there is one other show that a lot of people think of. A show that did it all way before Survivor, but with a neat spin, and that was called The Mole. Created in 1998 in the country of Belgium, December 6th, made by Michelle Dillinger, Bart de Pauw, Tom Leontis, and Michael Van Hoove. And basically, the show was unheard of at the time, mainly because, again, when it was made, like, the whole idea of how reality shows work was still kind of very loose. So The Mole stood out all the more because despite still being relatively new, it stuck in how it was presented. For one thing, in Expedition Crusoe, there was roughly around 24 characters, enough for 2 teams to compete, and then do the whole voting process, yada yada yada. However, with The Mole, there was only around 9 or 10 people on average. Sometimes it had more, sometimes it had less. It just depending on what they were going for that season. However, not all of them were actual competitors. One was The Mole. The Mole is basically person, a man or woman, and they're hired by the cast and crew, the director and producer and all that of The Mole, to join the ranks of the competitors and try and sabotage their chances of winning. Because unlike other competition shows, even to this day, The Mole doesn't have a set winnings at the end. How the game works is at the beginning, the contestants start with nil. They have a team pot that starts with 0, and in order to get money into the pot for the eventual winner, they have to complete challenges. These are challenges that could be physical, psychological, puzzle-based. It could be anything really. And there's always a step ahead because players want to probably sabotage better players. There's always a mole lurking around ready to sabotage. The mole is usually informed of what the challenges are ahead of time so they can plan on what's happening, and basically screw everyone over. What is the point of this? Well, the whole point of the contestants is not only to beat the mole, but figure out who the mole is. Because every time they win a challenge, they get winnings towards the team pot that the winner eventually gets. And the winner of the mole is the one who successfully answers who is the mole. Hence why usually when people call the mole, they usually mean a deceiver, a liar, a traitor, a saboteur, a deceiver, sort of thing. Each character, at the end of each episode, the characters take a quiz. Basically, what do you think the mole did that day? Basically, if you say, oh, the mole did this, then you answer, that's what you think the mole did. Whoever knows the least amount of the mole is executed. Not eliminated, executed. That's what they do. And it goes down and down and down. Throughout the show, there are various clues, visuals, audio, other stuff, optical illusion, stuff like that, that play a role in actually giving clues over to who the mole was. And this was very creative at the time because it actually encouraged audience participation and, led to people debating who they think the mole is. Like, it could be this because this clue might be pointing to this person. And some clues may actually be red herrings. You don't know for sure. And so that made a lot of these conversations actually really fun. So now we're kind of caught up with the backstory, what made these types of stories so enticing for fanfiction readers and writers was the whole idea of it. Like, this wasn't a sitcom where you can just write anything out, write stories. This was a competition, so someone had to win, people had to lose, there was stakes at play, it was ready-made to be an actual novel. So what happened? Well, honestly, most of it was mostly just they couldn't figure out how to do it right. Honestly, from the early days, when it came to these types of stories, it fell under three categories. Either one, it was completed and it was horrible. Two, it was completed, or even the writer just treated it as a joke and just mainly did it for, stupid dumb. Incredibly idiotic stuff, I don't know, there was a Resident Evil Survivor one in half the time. Rebecca Chambers took off her dress and dressed like a dominatrix for some reason. It was weird. It was cringy comedy. The author didn't know what to do and how to make it actually serious. And the few ones that were at least decent usually never picked up momentum, and the author just gave up on them. So these stories were just never treated seriously. I mean, if even the authors themselves treated these stories as jokes, what should we, the readers, the people who read and consume these things, think of these stories? We would see them as jokes too. And that's pretty much what it was for years on end. Nobody took these stories seriously. And that in essence became the catalyst of why people consider Chris Etchers the godfather of this genre, because he's the reason why these stories succeeded in the first place. If you look at more modern day types of reality competition show stories, there's a very noticeable uptick in quality. You'll actually see character arcs. You'll actually see it being taken seriously. You actually get to see thrills and chills and humor and adventure and all these sorts of things. And it all started with Chris. And Chris not only did this successfully, he was the first one to do it. He inspired so many other authors like Princess Toadie, Y Zora, Morton Koopa, Molly Koopa something. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. And many, many more. A lot of people drew inspiration and still do. I did a mole story, which was a Ace Attorney Fire Emblem crossover, and he was kind of inspired by Chris Etchers too. But he just wasn't the author wasn't really that good of it. But I can't blame him. But that still brings the point that people are still being inspired by this one author, and to this day he's still writing stories. He's on his fourth mole story right now, Deceiver's World, which is a soft reboot of the original mole trilogy. He's still writing. He's still well known. People still remember this guy. It's it's just amazing that this guy basically just showed everyone that this type of story can be done, and these types of stories can be taken seriously, and that's what Chris did. So, what did Chris do to basically succeed where everyone else failed? Well, first we have to actually look at Chris Etcher's profile pic. If you actually go on his profile pic, he basically describes himself as a self-described mole superfan. I mean, he mentions the mole. Literally half of his profile pic as of this recording is nothing but like references and talking about the mole and stuff like that. He made 2 websites just dedicated to 2 of his mole stories in Saboteur's Island and Deceive and Agent's Elevation. He talks about thinking of a mole and ideas and stuff like that. He is as big a superfan as he can, and he even made a one-off video. He wanted it to be like a full series of him and a bunch of his college mates actually playing the mole at his college. That's insane. And so a lot of people, when the mole Traitor Abroad first was created in basically 2008, a lot of people were so skeptical because, in essence, some people saw Chris as more or less this type of story's last chance. If a self-described superfan couldn't pull it off, then no one could. And he did. And that's what made everyone succeed. That's why people call him the mask, like the face of this type of story, because he made these stories what they are. So basically, what did he do? He didn't treat, well, the answer is he treated this story like an actual season. He didn't treat it like a story like all these other writers did before him. He basically, his thought process was probably, I'm basically going to treat this story as just another season of The Mole. And it worked. Now, granted, Traitor Abroad is probably not the most polished of his stories. This was, in my opinion, I think Traitor Abroad is more of a proof in concept more than anything else. Like I said, like both Saboteur's Island and Agent's Elevation are just so much higher quality that it's hard to deny that that unlike those 2, Traitor Abroad probably has not aged well. And that's saying something, honestly. Not to mention, there is the big weakness in these types of stories. Like, for instance, probably the biggest weakness is these stories do not do well being reread. Like, when I reread the story for my Traitor Abroad review, I think a couple years ago, it was so cringy, mainly because it lost a lot of impact because I knew who the mole was, I knew everything was going to happen, and it just lost a lot of magic. This is a type of story that kind of reads on being have to be read once. Like, because once you read it and you finish it and you go back to read it again, you lost the spark. And this is not something I'm blaming not only Chris Etcher, I'm not blaming any author. It's just this is a type of story that really this story is one weakness. This is just a story where this type of story just does not do well on people rereading it over and over again because the whole idea is the competition reality bit of it. That's basically the hook of this story. If you take that away, then there's no enjoyment. You lose the spark. You lose the sense of mystery. You lose the sense of adventure. You basically lose what the story was about because, oddly enough, once you find everything out, it doesn't become fun to read anymore. And again, I'm not blaming the authors for this because this is just the type of story that causes this effect. Like there are some stories that cause this effect too, like mysteries. Mysteries in general, like unless you're a really good author, most mysteries, once you find out the mystery, it loses the spark too. Nothing to be ashamed of with that. Oh, how the rest of this introspection is gonna work, since the format of Traitor Abroad is very atypical, and this is an atypical story, I decided for convenience's sake, I'm going to actually describe the challenges and momentum, and then talk about the characters as they are eliminated. Like I said, the only reason I'm doing this is because the format of this story is just very atypical due to how, it's formatted like a reality show. I cannot stop it. That's just how these stories work. There has to be a way to do. I had to struggle the way to do this without breaking everything apart. Like I said, everything before this part right here is gonna be cut. Is gonna be gone on Salvatore's Island and Agent's Elevation. So, it's gone. So the first challenge is the cliff dive. Basically, the players. Let's describe the players. Got to add that. They are Luigi, Blooper, Toadette, Lakitu, Peach, Birdo, Daisy, Dupless, and Rockhawk. Those are the 9 characters. The reason I say 9 and not 10 is mainly due to the fact Chris Etchers more than likely cut one player, mainly because he just wanted to see if this can work. Because, like I said, he wanted to prove this story can be done. He didn't care if it was good or not. He wanted to prove, can this idea be done? Can this idea succeed? And so we kind of, we go from there. He also forgot about the journals, where each player writes what they think is the mole and other tidbits. But he just plumb forgot halfway through. It's like, and he didn't realize until like halfway. It's like, oh crap, I can't add them now. So we got the cliff dive. So basically, the rules are simple. All 9 players, they have to jump off a cliff. If all of them land in the water, they're fine. However, there is a tip. All of them must be wearing what they have after a 15-second period. Within those 15 seconds, they can take off any clothes and move anything around, and what say you. But after those 15 seconds, they cannot move and take off any articles of clothing or add any articles of clothing afterwards. So how did they do? They lost. They lost the very first challenge because Luigi wanted to be a good two shoes and give his hat to Rockhawk, because Rockhawk couldn't take his freaking pants his iPod out of his pants. And remember iPods? Yeah, I do too. He couldn't take his iPod out of his pants, and so Luigi's like, here, take my hat to wrap it around. They lost money because Luigi broke the dang rules. He took off his clothing, he gave it to Rockhawk, violated the rules. That's it. The second game, which is called the Baggage Claim. It's basically 5,000 to 20,000 coins. Basically, all the articles of clothing in all the players' bags are basically in the same bag, like plain khaki bags. They're testing. Two players have to ask all the other players, what do they own? And basically put like little post-its on each bag that belongs to the corresponding character. For every character they get wrong, they lose 5,000 coins. So fair is fair. So basically, what happened? Well, they kind of sort of won. They got 3 out of the 4 wrong. Basically, what happened was Blooper and Rockhawk's bag were messed up. They got them wrong, and Daisy, in a fit to put her post-it on a tag, they accidentally dropped it and left it on the floor, leaving Daisy a dirty tomboy princess. So they get 5,000 coins out of the 20,000. So we got our first elimination, and Rockhawk was eliminated. He's a nothing character. Let's just move on. He's just inconsequential. He was cannon fodder. He was there. Like I said, when it comes to the characters of this story specifically, there's not a lot of character development in this story. Again, that goes back to him just wanting to see this thing work rather than focusing on making good characters. I want this thing to work. So let's start with episode 2, which is the egg challenge. So basically what happens is they have to go to a new location. Two teams go into limos. Meanwhile, Daisy goes with the host, McBallyhoo. I will talk about McBallyhoo in more detail when I go to Agent's Elevation in a future video, so don't worry, he won't be left out. And basically, the whole game is Daisy is locked. All three teams are locked in their cars, and Daisy must communicate how to do the whole challenge through ACCTV without using her voice or mouthing. So she has to pantomime it, like body language, stuff like that. Throughout the challenge, people start fighting because everyone doesn't know what they're doing because Daisy does, people misunderstand what Daisy is doing. Or, she ends up getting the code wrong for part of the game. But at the end of the day, they actually win the challenge. So basically, Blooper at the end, they're aiming the egg, they're trying to do it, but Blooper notices that it's a little too high, and if they fire it, it may hit the car. So he said just lower it a little bit. They start arguing. No, Blooper's like, just fire it. He basically forces it a little bit lower, fires the egg, lands in the other limo. Fine. Oh, I didn't even describe the whole challenge. Yeah, they have to launch an egg from one limo to the other. I completely forgot about that. Then again, this mission was just forgettable. Let's move on. Next one is acquired or a custom. So basically, they're in a restaurant. So, and with a rotating table, and on the table are a bunch of food dishes that basically each player can rotate a certain amount of times. And basically, after everyone has picked and everyone has chosen their seat, they open the lids and they eat it. And they eat whatever it is. There's two customs which are more well-known dishes, which was a peach tart and a slice of pizza, and also acquired, which are more niche foods that a lot of people either don't like or stuff like durian. Like everyone knows what durian is. Oh, it's a sweet little ball, but you open it, and it's like the most rancid thing you ever taste. Or even wasabi. Like wasabi was actually in there. So what was the result? A failure. Basically, one of the dishes was called a gnocchi, which was a mushroom dish, but Mick Ballyhoo said we're not going to describe it to kind of hide the suspense. Peach didn't want to eat it. Birdo threw up her shio kara, which is like a drink sort of thing, like a soup sort of thing that was like really rancid. And Daisy refused to eat what's called balut. Now, balut is basically I'm actually uncomfortable describing balut because it's disgusting. I would actually sided with Daisy if I was told you gotta eat this balut. Basically, what it is a mostly grown duck embryo and its egg, and and I don't know who eats it. Like I even looked this up. It's like there's no way this can be real, and I looked it up, and it said it was real. I said that's just nasty. That is freaking nasty. I didn't even bother to see where it was come from. I just closed it when I found out it existed. It's literally just a mostly grown duck fetus. I actually, when I first read that, I literally almost threw up in my mouth because that's just nasty. But they ultimately lost because they only were allowed 2 passes, and with Peach refusing to eat and Daisy refusing to eat. I mean, Birdo at least tried to eat it, but she threw up because it was just so nasty that she just couldn't stomach it, which is fine. But they still lost. So, what is the third challenge? Basically, to enter or not to enter. So basically, all the players are given a specific location, and they basically said, when you find this location, you can either go enter it, see a clue about the mole, and leave. But we'll know if you watch it. If you go in there, you'll lose money. Also, if you are late, because each player is given a specific amount of time to get back, if they are late on the way back, money is lost too. So basically what happened? It was a partial victory. Peach and Daisy got lost. They didn't find the place. Like, yeah, they got money, but they also lost money. So their whole thing was negated. Dupless and Toadette entered the location. Toadette was actually kind of entered by Lakitu. Basically, Lakitu basically ordered Toadette to go in there, and then that's it. And also, Luigi was messaged by Big Ballyhoo since there was so little time. He's like, "You get a free pass this one." And Birdo just basically just went outside, sat down, and just stayed there. Like, no, I ain't doing that. So basically, that was... So at the end of episode 2, they won a total of 40,000 coins out of 500,000. So the character eliminated in episode 2 was Dupless. Just like Rockhawk, Dupless was inconsequential. He was cannon fodder. He didn't have any character, so, you know, he was there. So episode 3, the early morning delivery challenge. So basically, this was a challenge for Luigi. As a consequence, since he couldn't compete in the previous challenge, this challenge was specifically just for him. And he basically had a chance. Basically, he had a choice. He had a bunch of flares, and McBallyhoo told him and said, you either give flares to all the players, and you get an exemption, which is a free pass to the next episode. Or if you chose not to, or one of them wakes up, you don't get the exemption, but the pot earns 15,000 coins. And Luigi basically managed to give all the flares to to the competitor, so no money was won, and Luigi got an exemption. Next challenge, which was a rescue mission. So basically, what happened at the end of the little flare challenge for Luigi is McBallyhoo said, "Oh yeah, we're kidnapping you." I said, "Wow." And then a bunch of people pick him up and then just carried him to a random location where the next challenge is. So basically, the whole point of this is Luigi's being held hostage and will die if the other players don't save them. The prize is basically a bunch of coins, I think. So, yeah, about 20,000 coins. Each player must go in a group of 2 on a specific sort of vehicle to be able to get to Luigi. Toadette and Birdo are driving a car, Lakitu and Daisy are riding a helicopter, and Peach and Blooper are driving a boat. So, what happened? Lakitu and Daisy and Birdo and Toadette managed to get to Luigi and, unlock the whole thing and give him the car and stuff like that. Peach and Blooper got stuck in the middle of the sea because their boat broke down. And they just couldn't go anywhere. It was like, oh, well, we couldn't do anything. And they just spent the whole time arguing. So they lost 20,000 coins. The next challenge, which was actually sort of a secret challenge. So earlier in the episode, they were given bronze containers, and each player was given bronze containers. And then cops showed up, arrested all of them, arrested all of them, and basically checked to see if they opened the tubes. Basically, if they did, they're safe. If they opened the tubes, even if accidentally, they get arrested. However, there was a secret task to this challenge. If all the players who didn't open their tubes were all of the same gender, they win 20,000 coins. So, haha. And that's basically what happened. Basically, Birdo, Daisy, and Peach all didn't open their counters. Basically, what happened with Blooper is he just opened it. He's like, I'm going to lie to McBallyhoo, who said, oh yeah, we don't appreciate fire. Guards, take him away! And he got arrested. Lakitu didn't have his tube on him, so they can't arrest him. Luigi just flat out admitted, said, yeah, I opened it. I think I might have did it. And it's like, oh yeah, you're telling the truth. We got it, but you still opened it, you still broke the rules. Guards! And Toadette accidentally opened it, didn't realize she opened it, and so basically, it was an accident, but you still opened it, so we gotta arrest you. And so that's basically what happened. And so all of them were given a chance to win. Yeah, all of them were given a chance to try and escape from jail by answering a math question, but Lakitu couldn't, and so Lakitu spent the night there. So he just got a sandwich and was like, It's like, I don't have to deal with Blooper snoring. He's like, I don't snore. Yeah, you do. So the character eliminated after all that was Daisy. Yeah, she was confident. Yeah, she was kind of snarky. But she still was cannon fodder. And wasn't really a good character overall. She was slightly better than Blooper and Rockhawk, but she's still inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. We start episode 4 with the Sell and Laugh challenge. This was actually a 2-part challenge, each of them earning themselves up to 25,000 coins. So basically, the challenge is set up into 3 parts. They have 2 hours to do all 3 parts. Sorry, I'm stretching. The first part has Peach and Toadette trying to haggle items in the streets of Rootport to try and get items for the next 2 characters, Lakitu and Blooper, to try and upcharge. And basically, they have to try. And then afterward, Blooper and Lakitu have to sell at least more than what they made, because they were giving a limit of 100 coins. You must sell whatever they managed to buy plus whatever's half of the 50. So they had to try and get 90 coins out of it, make a profit, and they have to try and haggle and lie and deceive their way to selling these products. However, there was an extra challenge. During what Lakitu stayed in jail, McBallyhoo gave him some advice. Try and get on this specific challenge, because there will be a Koopa who will leave a bag of coins on the table where they'll be selling. And if they keep the money, they basically get to complete the challenge easier. Plus, but for how much they get will be reduced in half. So instead of 10,000, they will be reduced to 5,000. However, if they give the money back, then the prize will be bumped up to 15,000 should they actually complete it. However, there is an extra rule to that. If Lakitu is able to convince Blooper to keep the money without touching it, not only does the price reduce, but Lakitu gets an exemption to the next round. However, if despite all that Blooper gives the money back, so not only does the money go up, but Blooper gets an exemption. So there's a lot of risk reward there. And basically the second half of the challenge is Luigi and Birdo must try and entertain people by making them laugh while one person records everything. If they get a minute of laughter, they win. However, a lot of stuff went off. Basically, Peach and Toadette didn't haggle, while Blooper and Lakitu did get over 100 coins. Lakitu managed to convince Blooper to keep the money, so the money was cut in half, and Lakitu got an exemption. And second, Luigi and Birdo screwed up, because during the end, when Birdo was making the little girl laugh, Luigi accidentally shoved the camera in her face, violating the one rule of the game, which is the normal people cannot see the cameras. So out of all that, they only won 5,000 coins. Oh boy, that's fine. Next, we get up to the next challenge, the craps table. Who doesn't love craps? I honestly never heard of craps before I actually read the story, believe it or not. Yeah. Oh, basically, here's how the challenge works. Each player has a specific goal. They each roll a dice, and they do a challenge. Basically, 1, 2, and 3 are basically easy versions of the challenge, while 4, 5, and 6 must be harder versions of a challenge. And the one player who survives not only will basically... this challenge is actually it's kind of harder to describe. So basically, out of the 6 characters, 4 do normally 1, 2, 3. However, the 5th has to do all the other 4 combined in some way, shape, or form, and that was Toadette. The final character basically has to bet over whether or not they're going to be able to do the challenge or not. If the person who was guessing gets 3 of the 4 answers right, they win 20,000 coins. And what is the result? A victory! Birdo guessed correctly. Birdo guessed 3 of them correctly. She guessed that Luigi was going to shave his hair bald. Blooper was actually going to wear like a stockade. It's not really a stockade; it's more of a pillory, but that's it's like the stuff with your arms. She did get wrong that Peach was going to paint a new portrait of someone, and she's like, no, no way. Now I remember. Peach was supposed to be painted nude, but she's like, no, I'm doing that. I'm doing that. However, Toadette had a special role. If she took all the other challenges, if she actually did it, not only would she get the team victory, but she would also get an exemption, which is what she did. She painted her pigtails orange and green. She's wearing a ball and chain, and she actually painted a nude portrait. And funny enough, like she actually shows the portrait to McBallyhoo. Is like, and he's like, look at the camera. It's like, don't show this on camera. Don't show this on camera. No. And he's like, okay, you won. You got the challenge. Toadette gets the exemption. Hooray for everyone. So the prize goes up to 95,000 coins. The final challenge of episode 4 is the board a train. So they go on the Excess Express, go to 3 towns, and after the 3 towns, it's going to circle around, refuel, and come back. All 3 teams of 2 must solve a series of riddles in order to find train tickets to get back on the train. If all 6 players meet McBallyhoo back in Rootport before they leave, they win. If not, if even one person is missing, they lose. So what's the result? All 6 players win. Like Toadette, especially Birdo. Birdo actually clutches the whole thing at the end, solving the last riddle on her own, because she basically asked Luigi to help, ask the other players for the riddles, and like Luigi, when he gets on, he's like, oh no, I forgot. Oh no, I can't leave the train. And so that leaves Birdo actually having to figure out the last clue on herself, which was 20,000 leagues under the sea. She figures it out. She gets on the train. They all make McBallyhoo. They all win a lot of money, 20,000 coins. The final challenge of the episode is actually not really worth any money, but it's more bonus thing. I thought I'd mention it. It's basically called the morality test. So basically, since Lakitu and Toadette both won exemptions that round, they're given a conundrum. An old man will walk the street and needs some help. And if they help them, they keep the exemption. If they don't, they lose the exemption. Toadette keeps hers, Lakitu loses his. There's not really much to talk about other than that. Basically, and the next person eliminated is Birdo. Birdo was loyal. She was actually caring. She was the first true character to actually get character development. I really liked what the author did with her, because Chris Etchers is trying to plant the seeds of the character development, all that stuff, for which will eventually be better done in Agents Elevation and Saboteur's Island. I do honestly think Birdo was the first good character, but she's still spotty. Like, she's still kind of flat. Again, not much. Again, proof of concept sort of thing. Not really much done with it. So take it out as a grain of salt. Episode 5, we start with the Bell of Endurance. So basically, McBallyhoo hypes up this super hard obstacle course that you may die. Like, he hypes up, this is razor wire. No, this is not barbed wire. Barbed wire will just prick your skin. Razor wire will cut you to the bone, and you'll not only the blood, but all the fat and stuff like that will bleed out. Yeah. And he's basically doing this to psych up the characters. But the only real threat is throughout the obstacle course there are these dark guns being fired, and that were called ZB Junes, and they will fire and they will knock off the players. And all of them have keys. And so basically all of them have to make it to the bell at the end of the obstacle course. If they ring it, they get 30,000 coins. So what happens? They lose. Everyone gets hit by darts except for Lakitu, who realizes he does, and he's in front of another challenge, which is basically scale of electrical fence, and then try and basically get into the bell. He's like, I give up. It's just like, no. This is sadistic even for you, McBallyhoo. No. And so they basically lost the challenge. The next challenge, the relative rescue challenge. So basically, all of them are given a piece of paper to write down their biggest fear. Basically, they're given a clue beforehand. It's like, sometimes lying is the best thing you can do, as a hint to the specific challenge. And literally, each character are basically given a route. They're given a long hallway. In the middle of it is a key, but inside that room is their greatest fear. So basically, with Lakitu, it's fireworks. With Peach, it's snakes. Toadette, it's spiders. Luigi is the dark. And Blooper, the only one who actually lied, just said gold. Because of course he did. But we'll talk about Blooper separately. So, and all of them and the first 4 players actually have a minute to get to the other side. If they make it within a minute, they earn money towards the goal. However, each player, whoever wins it, is also fighting to see a relative of theirs. Like with Luigi, he's doing this to hang out with Mario, and so on and so forth. And basically, only like 3 characters, Lakitu, Luigi, and Blooper, got to see their parents. Blooper was actually given a special role in the game. Basically, Blooper had the chance of either opening a door to see his father, or he deliberately leaves out the lock, gain an exemption, and gain the pot 10,000 coins. So an additional 10,000 coins, but he can't see his father for the rest of the episode. Blooper basically said, "Fuck the exception, fuck the money, I want to see my daddy." Ow. Another thing was, at the end of the challenge, since Toadette and Luigi never got a chance to see their assumptions, Peach and Lakitu were given neutralizers, which basically means they are basically not allowed for the rest of the episode and the episode after that, and to basically not allowed to not for the rest of the game, they can't claim exemptions. So both Lakitu and Peach basically took the exceptions to allow Toadette and Luigi to see the rest of their family. So that's it. That's basically, they won 135,000 coins. That's fine. That's good. The final challenge of episode 5 is the laundry race. So basically what happens is McBallyhoo takes Peach, Luigi, and Blooper to a laundromat, a random laundromat. It's like, okay, here's the challenge. I want you to wash all this laundry. And they're like, what? It's like, oh, you don't think it's going to be that easy, do you? Well, here's what you gotta do. You basically have to answer questions. For every question right, you get to put quarters in your mouth, a la bobbing apple style, to try and spit up in a bucket to try and win money to start the laundry, set up the washing machines and the dryers and stuff like that, to try and clean all the washing. However, if they manage to do that, they win 20,000 coins. Or do they? So basically, Toadette and Lakitu are taken to a separate location where they must compete in a series of puzzle games to try and to escape the area, to have the runner, Toadette, escape and make it to the laundromat to tell them that McBallyhoo was basically just pulling one over them. If Toadette manages to convince them not to finish the laundry, they actually win. So basically, Peach, Blooper, and Luigi are told, i.e. lied, that if they finish washing all the laundry, they win the 20,000. But in actuality, Toadette and Lakitu have to solve a bunch of puzzles in order to let them know that McBallyhoo was basically lying. And then when the whole thing comes out, Peach is like, why laundry? It's like, not to wash everyone's clothes for us and save some money. And stuff like that. So basically, it was harmless fun. They actually win this one because Peach believed Toadette when Toadette showed up at the laundry at the last couple seconds, and managed to convince them that you're basically being fooled. You have the wool pulled over your eyes, and so Peach believed it, won the challenge, and they won 20,000 coins. Person eliminated this episode, Princess Peach. She was very kind. She was very altruistic. Honestly, Princess Eclair in Agents Elevation did basically Peach's character, but way better. Like, Eclair just completely eclipsed Peach. We'll talk about Eclair when I get to Agents Elevation. But Peach was fine as is. She wasn't badly done. She was just another step in the right direction, like with Virgo. She's basically a step forward with, here you go. And the next challenge is actually a two-parter. So there's two challenges that happen at the same time at the beginning of episode 6. The first one is the Mecha Koopa Chase. Basically, Blooper and Lakitu have to capture some Mecha Koopas, little Koopa toys that Bowser throws at you in Super Mario World and during his boss fight. And they have to try and capture them to spell out words. If they get 4 points, they win. That's just it. And then afterwards, in conjunction with the other challenge, they must answer a trick question. They get it, they win, sort of thing. Basically, that challenge is actually one. Where basically throughout the challenge, McBallyhoo is saying, "Applaud! Applaud!" And so Lakitu gets tired of it. He rips off. Basically, what happened is Blooper hands Lakitu said, "This is my lucky jacket," and Lakitu is completely clumsy in it, and it's like this, and rips off the sleeves. Blooper is freaking out, "No, my jacket!" And then Lakitu claps, which actually deactivates the Mecha Koopas because they were actually sound activated, which was actually a clue that McBallyhoo kept saying by saying, "Applaud! Applaud!" And so basically they got the special G, which was basically a wild card that basically allowed them to automatically win, and they won. And they also got the trick question right. The other challenge is called Art Attack. That's what I call it. Basically, Toadette and Luigi have to make a picture, have to make a piece of art, and fool a art critic into thinking it was not them. Said art critic was McBallyhoo. Yeah, you can kind of see where that one is going. And then afterwards, they must watch and see if Blooper and Lakitu figure out which one is there. So it's kind of a turnabout fair play. They lost them both for guards because McBallyhoo was like, this one, and which was basically this one is yours, which was basically a TV with the Three Little Pigs inside it, and it's like a chat TV, and it's weird. Oddly enough, Blooper and Lakitu said, "Which one is it?" "I know, it's the noose with a sickle. That has to be it." Yeah, and then lost both those. The next one is McBallyhoo Manor. So the final 4 players are given a tour of McBallyhoo's mansion. They must play some games. Lakitu actually assists us one out, so that's fine. And so Luigi, Blooper, and Toadette must stay a specific amount of time in a specific room in McBallyhoo's manor. If they do, they have a chance of winning. All 3 players have to be able to survive until the specified time, and they win. If one of them quits, the entire challenge is lost. So let's run it down. Luigi has to stay a full hour inside a meat locker full of rancid meat with a bunch of flies chasing after him. And for the last 5 minutes, the lights go out. With Blooper, he goes down to a morgue. He's dipped down into a morgue body bag with holes in it. He must lay on one of those little metal trays that you put in the morgue. And he must literally sleep there the entire night. And Toadette, Toadette must stay in a conservatory. What? I mean, it says conservatory in the story, but it's actually a greenhouse. I never actually understood that. Like, when I think of conservatory, I think of like telescopes and stargazing and stuff like that. That green ring. But, I don't know. Maybe it's like another language sort of thing. I don't know. And so Toadette must stay a certain amount of time in the greenhouse while a pipe is leaking, and there's a crocodile inside the greenhouse. You can kind of see what happened. Toadette freaked out, said, "I give up," and lost the team challenge. That's basically it. The final challenge of episode 6 is basically the human lie detector. So Lakitu, since he wasn't given a challenge in the McBallyhoo, basically is the main focus of this challenge. So basically, all 3 players who survive the manor have to tell a story of their descriptions of what happened in McBallyhoo's manor. 1 player will be telling the truth. 2 players will be telling the truth. No, wait. Is it? No. 2 players will be lying. 1 will be telling the truth. If they manage to fool Lakitu, then they win 10,000 coins. However, if Lakitu is successfully able to figure out who is telling the truth, not only will they not win money, but Lakitu will also gain the final exemption of the game. I do want to point something out. This is actually very much of a contradiction, because Lakitu did take the neutralizer, so legally he wouldn't be able to get the exemption. I don't know if Chris actually forgot about that, but that's another point. Another point is, like, since Peach and Daisy lost some coins in a previous challenge when they took so long to wake up and stuff like that. No, not Peach and Daisy. Toadette and Peach. They woke up, they lost some coins, and so they gain extra coins and stuff like that. So there's a lot of coinage and stuff like that moving up and down. They actually won because when Luigi was telling his story, which was the meat locker, Lakitu actually looked at his shoes, noticed that they were actually clean. When Luigi described, it was rancid meat, it was like very, very sticky and very, very dirty and stuff like that. He looked at the shoes, saw that the shoes were clean. It's like, oh no, this guy's bullshitting. And said, Luigi's the one. Luigi's lying. Blooper might be lying. Toadette was telling the truth. Toadette actually lied and basically claimed she stayed in the morgue in the basement and stuff like that. Toadette was actually lying. They fooled Lakitu, and they win 10,000 coins. So the person eliminated in that episode was actually Lakitu. Now, the difference between Lakitu and all the other players was a sense of motivation. All the other players in the story, when it came to their motivation, boiled down to, I just wanted to go on an adventure. That was Lakitu too, until the relatives challenge, when he actually proposed to the person he saved, which was his girlfriend. He basically proposed, and now is actually wanting to win the money to fund the wedding of him and his wife. And I thought that was very nice. And again, it's another step in the right direction. He's basically ironing out all the kinks of what to do and what not to do with characters, and giving them various motivations. Even if the motivation was at the very end, like he didn't really have this motivation for long, like only like near the end of episode 5. But we still got a change in motivation of someone wanting to go on a journey to someone wanting to win, finding out that he wants to win for basically wanting to make his love happy. I thought that was a very nice touch, and it was a very, very good dose of character development and at least a character arc, no matter how little it was going on with it. But we're on the final episode. Blooper, Luigi, Toadette. The first one is the 3-question game. This is actually supposedly a staple of the whole series. Basically what happens is the host goes to a specific location, takes each contestant one at a time, asks them questions, and then asks the other players what would the person hiding say. And they basically go directions based on which one they answer. So it's like, for Toadette, Toadette's the one hiding. And Luigi and Blooper is like, which one would probably have less people at their funeral? And it's like, you go left for Blooper, go right for Luigi. As an example, I know that question actually is said, but I can't remember who it's asked. I think that's actually the one Toadette asked. I'm pretty sure. And so, and it's basically the point of it. Like, for each person they find, they gain money. So they basically 10,000 coins. Basically what happened was Toadette and Blooper were not found, but they did find Luigi. They managed to get all 3 questions right for Luigi, but not with Blooper and Toadette. They almost got it right with Toadette, but Luigi got stubborn at the last second. It's like, no, I'm going to save... Because the question was basically, who would Toadette think if she was in the middle of a lake and she was drowning? Who would save? The plumber or the aquatic creature? And so Luigi's like, no, it's me. But it's like, but I swim for a living. Not me! Nah! It's like, fine! It's your funeral if we screw up. Which is basically what happened. It's like, Luigi, you're a dunce! And that's basically what happened. That's it. And then we get to the final challenge of the game, which was the journey through completion. Though basically this challenge for 50,000 coins is a 60-plus mile journey from the Coconut Mall to an unknown location. And they're given a map, and they have to complete it. And all 3 players have to be given a certain amount of challenges, where if they complete it, they gain time in order to increase their chances of winning. But if they lose a challenge, they lose time, in essence, making it harder for them to get there. And so having them to screw up. They are in order. They must find their car in the Coconut Mall, full of a parking lot full of cars. There is a bottle of where the car is. However, if they go into the water where it's located, because it's in the bottom of the lake, they lose 5 minutes. Second challenge, they must go into the Coconut Mall, go to a Japanese sushi shop, and must separate pictures of challenges they won with challenges they lost. If they get it, they gain some time, but every time they open up a dish with sushi on it, they have to eat the sushi before hilariously, like before the challenge, like Luigi's like, I love sushi, but then he's like eating, he's like, second one, Toadette has to be able to solve a famous word phrase, Romeo, where art thou, Romeo, in a poetry shop. Blooper and Luigi were allowed to help her by finding books. They basically could have cheated by saying, oh, you could have just found the book of Romeo and Juliet and just said, nope, there's the thing. But they won it, they got it. In a candle shop, they had to actually find McBallyhoo's favorite scent. There was actually a clue of recording him eating cotton candy, and one of the candles was called Sea Island Cotton, which was the clue. And so, however they chose wrong, they lose time. The next one is they have to cut a log in half against a wood sculpturer, making a little mole figurine, and they basically get some money. They gain some time, but they lose because Blooper's like, oh, I'm going to do a one-handed time. And he's like, and even the sculptor's like, yeah, you screwed yourself, because it would have been easier to just go diagonally and then go like that. Next one, they have to learn Spanish to find a clock in a box in a Spanish-inspired shop. They basically find it, they gain some time. And finally, they're in front of a gate where they must solve a puzzle in order to open the gate, allowing them to meet McBallyhoo, which they managed to do. Now, did they win? They actually win the challenge. With only a couple seconds to spare, they gain 5,000 coins. However, the challenges are not done yet. I did say the journey to completion was the final challenge, but not the final challenge. There is one obstacle left, and that is the mole dossier. So basically, at the end, McBallyhoo takes all 3 players aside, and he offers them a chance. This is the mole dossier. This is all the information on the mole, everything they did, everything they have done, what their name is, where they've been and stuff like that. How much of the pot are you willing to take out get your hands on this. Basically, all 3 players bet money. Toadette actually doesn't bet anything. Blooper bets 35,000. Luigi stupidly bets 50,000 coins. And so McBallyhoo hands in the dossier. And it's basically, if Luigi opened the dossier, while he will know everything, 50,000 coins lost. But if he basically says no, nothing's really gained. There's no gained money. It's just you either find the information or you resist temptation one last time to earn yourself some self-respect. Luigi just sets the dossier on fire and just says like, yeah, I'm done. So we finally got to the final. It's been a long video, like over an hour long. The final person eliminated is Blooper. I really liked Blooper. Blooper was calm. He was collected. He was probably the most hilarious character of the story. He did a lot of dumb stuff. I really liked the journey from him, like him owning up and like, hey, again, it's a step in the right direction. Same thing with the other 2 and Lakitu and Peach, and Birdo as well. They're all just stepping stones to getting full, complete characters that are shown in Saboteur's Island and Agent's Elevation. I do think Blooper was a decent enough character. Same thing with the winner, which was Luigi. I mean, Luigi was Luigi. He was cowardly. He's like, oh. And he was very just snarky and stuff like that. But, you know, there's nothing you can really do differently with Luigi. It's just, Chris Etchers just did, here's Luigi, that's him. That's it. And the mole, who was Toadette. Toadette was a crybaby. She was basically tearing up. But I did like her character arc with Peach, them becoming actual friends, and having a lot of fun with her. I did like Toadette. She's probably, in terms of if I ranked all 3 most, she'd probably be in the middle between the mole of Saboteur's Island. I honestly don't like Saboteur's Island mole and Agent's Elevation mole, which I really liked. She had a good enough character in the context of the story. And just like Luigi and Blooper, she was just a fun character. Everything about her character worked. And so we come to basically in the end of the story, they basically recap everything. They said their journey, the clues of the mole, everything. And honestly, I actually found out who Toadette was at the very beginning. When Dupless was eliminated, we were introduced to a car with a certain symbol on the lid, which was basically a caduceus. Caduceus is a medical symbol meant to designate, one of the universal symbols for medical care. And in the story, Toadette is actually a nurse. So it's like, once I found out that it was a caduceus, I basically said, it's Toadette, isn't it? And I was like, I took a lucky guess, because I was kind of curious, because like, I've heard that thing before. And when I found out it was a caduceus, like, oh, it's Toadette. I spoiled myself, didn't I? And so I basically went in trying to find clues for Toadette. It's like, okay. Here's what I missed. Here's something I missed. And another clever clue is, like, if you actually look into the story, you roll up the chapter logs, and you spell out the first letter of the first 8 chapters, it spells Toadette. And I thought that was really cool. That's what makes Chris Etchers differ from other mole authors. The fact that he was willing to go to that degree to hide the identity and leave clues. That he left clues in the chapter names is astounding. But we reached the end of the story. We reached the end of the video. Traitor Abroad, while aged very poorly, was a story that has left a lasting impact. Like, despite the fact, yes, it's bad nowadays, especially since Saboteur's Island and Agent's Elevation, and even Deceiver's World, his newest story, is miles better. Traitor Abroad left an impact that the other 2 stories could even dream of. And Chris deserves all the respect for doing something at the time a lot of people thought was impossible. He made the impossible possible, and he left a legitimate legacy over this type of story. He will forever be known as the guy who made this succeed. He's the guy who made this idea, this identity succeed. And he deserves the absolute respect for doing that. And we're not even done with Chris's stories. Next episode will be Saboteur's Island. In my opinion, pound for pound, the best of the trilogy. Although that's nothing Agent's Elevation to sneeze at. I think overall, Saboteur's Island was the complete package. It had the best while it didn't have the best characters, that's actually Agent's Elevation. It had a great mixture of suspense, of entertainment, of world building, of characters, everything mixed together so perfectly that it was just hard to top. Agent's Elevation was just hard to top it. And honestly, Agent's Elevation tried its damn hardest to do that. It really did. Especially at the end. But that will be for when we talk about Agent's Elevation. So, it's been a long time. I've been wanting to get this video off the ground. I want to thank everyone who subscribed to my channel. Everyone who I consider myself friends with. Despite the fact I don't know most of you outside of a passing glance. I want to thank everyone for journeying through me on this journey. Finally get this video off the ground. I say thank you. I'll see you next time. And cut.